FIU Athletics Podcast, North Texas recap, UCONN preview. The Panthers are 2-1. The Panthers have a winning record through 3 games. The Panthers could be 3-0. I'm going to say they could be 3-0. Others might make the case it could be 1-2 or otherwise, but I'm making the case, the FIU person here, that it could be a 3-0 start. Love where we're going to start this season. AJ Ricketts here, Patrick Murray, FIU Athletics Podcast. Appreciate you tuned in for another episode. What a game over North Texas, 46-39. To me, it's one of those games. Look, the expectations internally have always been there. They have to be there. But I thought this kind of performance, look, you go from scoring 31 points in 2 games combined. There's questions about the offense, even with Kiwan's first performance. And then he does it again. He throws for 291, and he put up 46 against North Texas, who blew you out by 38 last season. Just last November really doesn't feel like that long ago. This is one of those games that, to me, it feels like it can really alter perceptions, even internally, even though the belief is already there. Kind of says, hey, well, we did this. We've already made this improvement against the team we got our butt kicked by last year. Man, a really, really fun game. Patrick, what stands out to you about last Saturday?
I think the end of the game, just being able to finish that game, when you compare it to Louisiana Tech, you said at the top, FIU could be 3-0. They definitely could be if a couple things go their way at the end of the game in Ruston to start the year, right? So you look at that game where there's you can pick up a fourth down or a third down and end the game offensively. You can get a stop on defense and end the game and get a win. They couldn't do it against La Tech, but this time against North Texas, they get the job done. The offense has a fourth down that they have to pick up to extend the drive, and Kewan Jenkins makes an unbelievable throw while he's getting smacked, and Dean Patterson makes a great catch, and then you end up taking the lead, and then the defense has to get a stop on fourth down when North Texas drives deep into the territory, and they're able to do it. They're able to get the stop. So when FIU needed to make plays at the end of the game, they made the plays to win the game. And when was the last time you felt this good about FIU football after 3 games?
After 3 games, it's been a couple of years. It's you mentioned Dean Patterson, right? And I love that he was the guy to make that catch on fourth down, because look, and we'll talk with him soon about this. It went the end of the La Tech game, that pass from Grayson going through his hands. Dean's had such a good spring, summer, fall. He showed what he could do at the end of the Middle Tennessee game. He's ready to take his step forward and show that. And it comes time for a big fourth down catch, and it goes through his hands. And you feel terrible for the guy. But just poetic that, number one, Kewan Jenkins was the first guy out to him after that sequence. The first guy, even though Kewan didn't play in that game, Kewan was sprinting on the field, the first to have his back. And then Dean was the guy to make the catch on this critical fourth down in this critical fourth quarter. That was a super high degree of difficulty, falling out of bounds, and that kept the drive going, which Kejon Owens eventually punctuated with the touchdown. We'll certainly talk about Kejon's performance, but man, Dean Patterson, Jalen Bracey, and Chris Mitchell, who's 3rd in the country in receiving yard. I mean, there's a bunch of FIU players who are top 10 in the country in their own statistical category. We'll get to that, but Chris Mitchell, another incredible game. These wideouts, there are question marks about this position group heading into the season. A lot of talent, not necessarily proven talent at this level over the course of a season. And Tyrese was making the headlines last year. They're starting to show that there's a number of emerging stars in this wideout group for FIU.
That was a heck of a catch by Dean Patterson. I mean, to track that ball over the shoulder and to be falling towards the sideline and to be able to hang on to it. And you can tell that Jenkins trusts him. I mean, there was no hesitation about throwing it deep to him there on fourth down with pressure coming in his face. He's like, I got to get this out. I'm trusting my guy to go and make this catch. And he rewarded that trust and made the catch. And Chris Mitchell has had a great year. And he's really, I think this offense, what they're doing this year, has really worked well for Chris Mitchell and his ability to use his speed and also to read the defense. You know, if he's got to cut a route short or if he thinks he can beat him deep, he's going to go ahead and beat him deep. And he's done a good job of making those decisions and reading the coverage and being on the same page as Keywan Jenkins. And I think you've got that chemistry there early on. Even though it's a true freshman at quarterback, you see some of the chemistry between him and the trust between him and his receivers, particularly Mitchell and Patterson.
Yeah, Mitchell, Chris is now at 297 total receiving yards. Again, third highest in FBS. It's tops in Conference USA, 99 receiving yards per game. Man, it was funny listening to the press conference. I think it was after the game. You know, he's handing off to his former high school teammate and Keyjon Owens, Miami Central guys who are really becoming a huge part of what feels like a renaissance right now within the program. Keywan goes, it's not rocket science, it's rocket football. Rocket football has become a little bit a brand of Panther football. I mean, how cool is that? Keyjon hadn't had a carry this year. You go from not having a carry to 3 touchdowns over the course of this game. All of them so impactful. One of them, a really long scamper to the end zone, another at the turban, just dragging defenders with them. It's just one of those neat dynamics, right? These local guys, South Florida, Miami products, doing it in front of friends and family. This has always kind of been what it's felt like FIU can be when it's at its best. Have these local guys thrive, and we're seeing it right here. It has the feeling like it's the start of something significant, and it was fun to see those two together. You add Shamari Lawrence into the picture. Antonio Patterson has a touchdown this year. Again, the running backs and are making their presence felt too.
Yeah, Shamari Lawrence, another South Florida guy from Pompano Beach. So it's cool to see those local guys, especially Keyjon and Keywan being from the same high school. Really cool to see them being able to do that in their city and leave their mark on a higher level. And Owens really had some nice runs. I mean, that's a cool story for him to step up in practice and earn those reps in the game, earn those carries, average over 10 yards per carry. And the thing that stood out for me with him was his vision. Yeah, both of those touchdown runs, he didn't exactly go where the play was designed to go, but he went where he saw a hole, right? He's did a good job of taking the ball where it's supposed to go, drawing the defense in, and then seeing where a hole opens up and bouncing that way. The first one, well, I think was inside zone, and he bounces it to the outside after setting up the safety, got the safety out of position, and bounces it outside. And then he did a really nice job of just running through a few arm tackles and being strong in his legs. And then the second one, the really long touchdown run, or the last one, it was outside zone, and he just completely cuts it all the way back on the opposite side of the offensive line. So he did a great job there of just seeing what was there, seeing what the defense was giving him, and taking it. And so the vision was impressive for me, and the contact balance as well for Owens. And hopefully he's going to get some more opportunities going forward this year.
Yeah, what's cool to me is that both Keyjon Owens and Chris Mitchell, these are guys who have been in the FIU program for a number of years now, right? And their roles probably weren't what they envisioned when they entered. It's taken some time, it's taken some development, but it's also taken some belief. How easy is it when you're not in the role that you envision? A new coaching staff comes in, it can be real easy to find a different scenario or just hang it up altogether. And even at the start of last year, it wasn't necessarily, or throughout the course, like Chris Mitchell found a bigger role over the course of last year. Keyjon Owens found a little success, but wasn't having the kind of games like he had last weekend. For that to now develop to the point where, I mean, the plays they've had, the game-changing nature of it, Chris Mitchell being top 5 in the country in receiving, Keyjon Owens with 3 touchdowns, to see how this is where there's the spectrum of their role here is now from where it started. That is special stuff for them to stick to the course, believe in Coach McIntyre's staff, believe in themselves throughout the course of that process, and start putting it together in a game-changing way. I think that's really cool to see. Let's flip defensively here too. It's felt, to be cliche, the whole bend but don't break kind of nature of it has been, it's kind of been a description for our defense at times. But man, you'll take that because red zone defense, you could be efficient at that. You can go a long way. Right now, 14th best red zone defense in the FBS, best in Conference USA. Opponents have scored on 6 of their 10 red zone chances in just 4 touchdowns out of that. Yeah, total yardage and points given up last week probably wasn't ideal, but you had a pick 6 from Zeke Masses. You had Donovan Emmanuel get flying all over the field. CJ Christian with an interception, nearly 2 of them as well. They're taking the football away at a high level. I think it's 5 takeaways now through 3 games. They're showing some things. The total points allowed in the first 2 games was where they wanted it, I think. And they did enough here against North Texas, against an offense that went for 52 against us last year.
That's what you have to do in modern defense, right? When you're these offenses that you have to face now that are going to go up tempo, and North Texas ran like 84, 85 plays, something like that. You're going to be on the field a lot. You're going to face a lot of plays. You're going to give up a lot of yardage. You're going to have a tough time getting lined up against up tempo and stuff like that. So you have to say, hey, so what? We give up 400 yards, 500 yards, whatever. Let's make an impact on the game and give ourselves a chance to win. And FIU's defense did that on Saturday with those takeaways, scoring the touchdown, getting a stop when you need a stop, right? At the end of the game, can you get the last stop and get the win? And FIU's defense did that. And I thought the pass rush was really good at times as well. Avery Huff had a really relentless play to force the fumble. And he looks like a guy that can be a weapon in pass rush in certain situations. And Jordan Garrod got a really good push up the middle sometimes, causing some pressure. So they put some pressure on North Texas's quarterbacks at times, and that's what you have to do. Make the quarterback uncomfortable, see if you can force some mistakes here and there, and then take advantage of them. And if you give up some points, you give up some points, but affect the game in other ways, and the Panthers did that.
We talked about how FIU players, across the board are pretty competitive nationally right now. Obviously, we mentioned Chris Mitchell being 3rd in the country in receiving yards per game, and Donovan Manuel is 6th in the country in tackles right now, averaging 12.5 per game. Shamari Lawrence 9th among FBS rushers, 2nd in Conference USA with his total yardage. So you put those players at the top of their position group statistically. You love to see that. And then let's talk about the freshman quarterback a little bit more. Kewan Jenkins, when we met with the coaching staff a couple of weeks ago before the main game, they're raving about it. They had a lot of great things to say. They were very complimentary, while also noting the things that he can continue to develop and get better at. But, I was almost taken aback a little bit about the effusive positive thoughts. I was like, all right, this is encouraging. But now we've certainly seen exactly what they're talking about. That electric playmaking ability. He'll respond from an interception. He'll respond from getting hit. He's done both of those things. That game-winning touchdown drive was right after the pick, right, which led to the North Texas score. Did you expect 2 kind of performances like this right out of the gates? From Kewan Jenkins, 292 yards, 291 yards, leading game-winning touchdown drives, the moxie. What did you expect, and has what happened resembled those thoughts?
No, I didn't expect him to play that well this early. I mean, I thought you'd have some freshman mistakes, you'd see some playmaking ability, and there'd be some things to work on and some problems that you have to work through. And sure, there's still things that he can improve upon, but I think he's outplayed expectations so far. And a lot of the things that you mentioned, just the poise, I think is the biggest thing. His poise to be able to bounce back from throwing that pick and then go and lead a game-winning touchdown drive. The poise to stand in the pocket and take a shot and still be able to deliver an accurate ball. And just the confidence that he has in himself and in his teammates to check a play at the line if he sees something, or to try to fit a ball in a tight window where sometimes maybe you don't want him to have quite as much of that. You want to say, hey, hold on to the ball there, throw it away. But also you like the confidence in saying, hey, I can go make this play, or I know that my receiver can go and get this ball. And you love to see that early on. And I think Kiwan has exceeded expectations. And North Texas's defense was kind of funky, kind of hard to deal with. Kind of the Big 12 style. Their defensive
Right.
coordinator came
Iowa
from Iowa
State.
State. They do that
Right.
Big 12 style, three safeties, and then they had like all kinds of different coverages. They got three safeties, and you don't know which safety is going to drop, which one's going where, and they're giving you every kind of coverage that you can see. And sometimes they got Key and he didn't see a safety and he threw a pick a couple times, but other times he knew exactly where he needed to go with the ball and was confident in it. So I think it was good to see from a true freshman.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be an interesting test, right? Like you felt there were going to be pockets and that zone look and areas or receivers would be open, but could he find him? Would he have the pass protection? And the answer to both of those was a resounding yes throughout the course of that game. By the way, before we talk UConn, I'm ready for Vice Night already. Got the pink going here. How did you watch this one on E Plus? How did the Biscayne Blues look to you? I loved everything about it. I feel like we've probably used all the Biscayne blue paint there is in Miami to cover both of those end zones in the midfield logo. Need to find a way to get my hands on one of these jerseys. I love the video shoot that accompanies all these uniform reveals. Looks pretty sharp, right? Looks solid. Biscayne blue is a thing now.
Oh yeah, the Biscayne blue was phenomenal. I loved it. Looked great. The field looked great painted in it, and the jerseys looked great. Definitely have to do that again. If you can get another one of those this season, I'm going for it. But if not, definitely have to do it again next year.
Yeah, I want to do it every game, but then we got Vice. We got to do our Vice stuff, which I also would
Yeah,
love to do every game.
got a pretty good
By the way, great
uniform review.
student turnout last week as well. Got to give a shout out to the students. There's a point in the recap video where the players are coming out of the tunnel, and all you can see is a completely full student section. Man, love how that is looking. We're making our way from the Tamiami Hall tailgate to the game. We love to see that transition happen. I'm sure the shirts were certainly motivation, but seeing a good football team it supported and was also on the minds too. So love seeing that, and hopefully we can have a really good crowd for Liberty for homecoming, which will be our next home game, of course, next Saturday. First, got to get through UConn, right? It's tough start for Jim Moore's crew, 0-2. No one's taken this one easy though. We remember what they did here last year. It felt like we were close last year, but never were in sync completely on offense. Had some red zone opportunities where we gave the ball away or turned the ball over on downs, just weren't able to get in the end zone. 33-12 was the final score of that game. Looking back at some stats here, UConn only had 107 passing yards, but they really controlled the ground game, 295 rushing yards. We outgained them 409 to 402 in total yardage. But I'm scrolling down to look at some red zone chances, and there 5 of 5 UConn in the red zone, whereas FIU was just 1 for 2. UConn 6 of 13 on third downs, FIU 4 of 14. Just felt like a game where we weren't able to hold our own in the way we would have liked along the line of scrimmage. They controlled the game from a physical standpoint. Their quarterback, South Florida guy Zion Turner, was able to have a decent debut, but it was really what they did on the ground, and then our lack of ability to execute in the red zone. It's going to be interesting now. UConn has a loss to NC State. They got whipped by Georgia State this past weekend. Their transfer quarterback from Maine, actually, Joe Fagnano, injured for the year. You hate to see that. The Huskies are going to rely on Taquan Roberson. He was the starter last year before getting injured early in the season, and that's when Zion Turner took over. So they've got some depth at quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see how this changes things within their offense. But what stood out from the last time we played? What stands out from the start of UConn season? It feels like a game. They're worst in the country in tackling right now. That's certainly something you want to take advantage of.
Yeah, that seems like an opportunity. UConn has not tackled well at all. So that could be an opportunity to get the running game going. And FIU ran the ball really well against North Texas, ran it pretty well against La Tech, not as well against Maine. So can you get that running game going early? Make UConn make some of those tackles in open space and stay balanced. Maybe can you take some shots in the passing game as well for some big plays and just be physical and aggressive, especially on defense, just like FIU did against North Texas. Physical and aggressive, try and force some turnovers. If you got the backup quarterback in, who is a starter quality backup, but can you put some
Right.
pressure on him, try to force him into some mistakes? And it's a UConn team that's going to be hungry. You know, they're coming off of 2 losses. They feel like they're a better team than that, and they're going to be playing at home. So it's going to be a tough game, but another opportunity to show for FIU to show how it's improved from last year. Right? You saw the change from the North Texas game last year to beating the Mean Green this year. Can you do it again against UConn?
Yeah, that it's a good point. I don't think anyone in this program has any intentions of thinking this is going to be an easy sort of win, right? This is a team that has played with a different verve since Jim Mora took over. It was a bowl team last year, and as motivated as can be, they don't want to fall to 0-3 at home against the team they beat by 21 last year. Now it feels like they're going to come out with a strong effort, even with their backup quarterback in there. So certainly a game that has to be taken very seriously, as every game should. But what one aspect I thought was cool that Mike McIntyre was talking with us about last week, and I mentioned in our pregame chat, I was like, hey, did you reference last year's game against North Texas at all? Is that a storyline? Is that a theme heading into this week? It's like, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and he said, look, wasn't about revenge. It's not about revenge in any way. But said, look, I got my butt kicked. You got your butt kicked. You need to start taking this personally. And it wasn't something that they were like talking to the media about all week. Like, oh yeah, it's on our minds. The way we lost last year, like it wasn't. It's just kind of like a quiet, internal, festering anger that was built up and a desire to show just, hey, we take more pride in ourselves and the level of football we can play at. And again, not so much revenge, but more so just pride in what FIU can be. So, I wouldn't be surprised if the UConn game last year is a source of that quiet motivation over the course of the week. You think, let's just keep that storyline in mind too here. Now, UConn's going to be motivated, but Mike McIntyre's team is going to be pretty fired up to take the field here too after scoring 12 points last year. What do you think is important here this weekend to try to get a third straight win?
I think that's good stuff right there because a lot of times coaches are gonna give you the line, oh well, it's a new season, we don't think about any of that. And so I'm glad that Coach Mack said, yeah, that motivated us, because a lot of times you look at the best competitors and they hate losing more than they love winning, and that just eats at them that they lost, especially when it's a game you feel like you should have won or you feel like you were good enough to win. It eats at you that you didn't win, and so that's something that FIU can certainly use for motivation. They certainly did last week, and it helped, and maybe they can do that again this week. And it's not necessarily about proving anybody wrong or revenge. It's about proving yourself right and playing the way you feel like you can play. So I think that's the motivation for FIU this week, and showing that what they did last week is not an aberration, that they are a good football team and they can go and be on a path to possibly make a bowl game if they go and win this week.
Yeah, and if you want more context on Coach Mack and his vibe and his his theme with the group of that storyline heading into the game, just watch that awesome cinematic recap video that our video production team put out. Look at what he's saying when he's addressing the team in that locker room right before, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. And mano a mano, 1v1, win your matchups, take some pride in it. Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome stuff to see. Really looking forward to this one. I think we got to double check the times and everything here for this weekend. CBS Sports Network, 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff will be in East Hartford, 11:40 a.m. WQBA. Myself and Corey Brooks will be on the call. Amazing that homecoming is already coming up the following Saturday. but a really important matchup. And you mentioned bowl game. Not going to talk anymore about it, but we are on some bowl projection website lists with Florida International is showing up on them. It's nice to see that again. It feels like it's a little too early in the season, but I'll take it. I'll take it. It's not something I'll pose to Coach Mack or any of the players because that's like, it's like taboo. You don't talk about the bowl game until you get to 6 wins. And then you still don't talk about it till you know where you're going. So there's no use in bringing that up, but we can talk about it.
That's our job.
I'm still a little trying to put the focus on UConn still. Let's get some more wins. And
it's still early. It's still early. Just keep playing.
But I believe we can get there. I believe it. All right, Patrick, this has been great. Always a lot of fun. Looking forward to this one this week, and you'll be back on the radio call here with us next Saturday. But yeah, chance to get to 3-1. This is fun. We're rolling now. 4 weeks into the season, just about. So big one here at UConn. Appreciate the time, man.
Thanks, AJ.